What's going on, Fenton? What's going on? Looks like we're having some issues. We're gonna turn this thing around. What's going on, brother? We had to jump off of mine, jump off of Getty's, and jump on mine. She's having some issues. I see her there. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
All right.
How
We
do I
had to
do this? I
we
don't
had
know
to
what's
turn it
going
around.
on.
We had to turn it around. So we jumped on mine. It's all good. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I have to like try to share it with everybody so everybody
Yes,
can
yes.
log on.
Yeah, hit the
Hit what?
airplane, hit the kite, hit the airplane and hit the kite so you can let your followers know we had to turn it around. I see Dr. Hodge on here. That's my personal MD. I'm so happy.
Yes,
I see.
I text him all the time, but he never answers me.
Hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'll
I
talk to
need
him. I'll
him to
talk to him
answer
for you.
me.
I see Kurt up here. What's up? Kurt the connector. If you need any connections, business wise. I see Keon on here, the smoothie king of Atlanta. We about to take it national. Smoothie king of Atlanta.
How are
Dr.
you?
Hodge says, DM me, Queen. He said, DM me, Queen. I got you.
Okay, I'll DM him. I'll take his word for that.
I'm telling you, he's a,
I
this
will DM
he changed
him.
my life. He changed my life. When I tell you, I think it's been 3 years now when I first went to Dr. Hodge for a consult. And
Oh.
I remember I showed up with a bag of medications. It was, I mean, of all the meds that I was taking. And he was like, listen, you just listen to me. I need you to get off those meds and do what I'm asking you to do, and you'll see the difference. And he didn't lie. I haven't looked back since. So,
I I I actually got my card already. I'm in Florida.
hmm
I got my card. I started using it, but um, I think they need to. I wanted to talk to him so I could do a live like this with him because we need to teach more about cannabis. We need to teach the whatever community it is. We need to teach them more about cannabis. So
yeah,
that's why I
yeah,
wanted to for him to. I wanted to have him on my live to do this.
awesome, awesome.
So
He's
hopefully,
the man. He's the man for that, and
yeah,
he's
I
he's
follow
really
him too.
accessible. He's really accessible. I love him. Always makes time for me. If I send him a message, anything, he always makes time for me, and I appreciate that so much because that's rare in this internet world that we live in.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is very rare. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Long day today, but I'm here. I told you I wasn't gonna miss this
That's
for the
it.
world.
That's it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
sent out the. I sent out the. I shared the live for so other people can start joining. I like your Haitian flag.
I had to do it when I found
I
out when
don't
I found
have
out you was
one, but
Haitian.
you know what I
When I
mean.
found out you was Haitian, I had to represent. I had to throw the flag on. I had to throw the flag on. I had to stun on you real quick.
um. Okay, so I don't know. I don't know if I don't know what happened. I was using Instagram. I purposely came on to go early in case anything happens.
Right,
And then
right.
when it's time, everything was fine. And when it's
Yeah.
time, I get this, you know.
That just means this is gonna be lit. That's why. Something's trying to stop this from getting the information to the people.
You
That's all
you
that
you
means.
know what I mean?
That's all that means. That's all that means.
Hi
I see
guys,
so
hi.
many people. I see Geesey on here. I see Shuby. I actually have, oh my goodness, I have one of my I hate to call them, I don't like the word because it feels so impersonal. I hope I don't offend, but I see one of my clients on here, in my
That's your client.
mentorship group. Shuby on here. Man, I see
Share
so
the
many
live,
people.
guys. To my sister's on here. She's the one saying hi, Francois, and hi, Gatti. That's my sister.
Hey, hey, hey.
Um, Velen, share the live, please. Tell your
Yeah,
people
share
to
share
come
share
on.
this, guys. If you guys can share it with everybody. This isn't just going to be about sickle cell. It is sickle cell, but it's so much more about life because everybody has adversity, everybody has obstacles in life.
That is true.
And so sickle cell for us is just another hurdle or obstacle.
Yeah.
So us managing it is no different than you having to manage your life or manage things that comes up in your life. So
Right.
this is great. So don't just make it a sickle cell issue and think that, hey, I'm cool, I'll pass on it.
Yeah,
Spread the word.
definitely. Spread
Yeah,
the word.
spread the word. I see 509 all the way. That's my boy. I used to kill him on that. It wasn't PS4 back then. It was a regular PlayStation. We were younger. He
What is
don't
this,
want it now.
Atari?
It
Sega?
was still PlayStation, but he don't
Oh,
want
it's
it. He don't want it.
PlayStation.
Yeah, he
Okay.
don't want it. He don't want it.
You don't want it.
He don't want the smoke still. He still don't want it.
Okay, I can't see my face. Okay,
But go
there you
ahead,
go.
Gabby. This is really, I want everybody to know,
Gaffy
this
with
is
a
really
T.
Gaffy. It's Gaffy. It's
Yes.
Gaffy. I want everybody to know this is actually her live. We were having some technical issues. Instead of delaying it, we decided to move forward and jump on my
Right.
page. But I'm gonna bow out gracefully and allow her to host this and do what she does. All right. So I'm
Thank
I'm taking a
you.
back seat. Go ahead, sis. It's on you.
All right. So, for the people who are joining, I first saw mentioned just now, I was having issues on my end, so he went live and I joined him. So share the live, let everybody know that we on. Like he just said, also, it's not just about sickle cell. It's not only about sickle cell. Everybody can learn from this. We hope to be able to promote the awareness and teach about sickle cell, but it's an everybody thing. It's not just sickle cell. So I met you. Well, I found out about your
Yeah.
account right on IG because you did the live with Sickle but Not Broken Simba.
Oh my goodness, Simbo, that's my girl. Yes.
Okay, so I had her my second show, my second live,
Awesome.
and then I went onto your account. And I was like, oh, Haitian, and I was like, okay, let me try and see.
Another win for the Haitians. Another win for the Haitian. Okay, I'm good.
That's it. Another win for the Haitian.
I'm
So yeah, my name is Gaffy. I grew up in Haiti. I moved here when I was 17. In Haiti, I was born with sickle cell, SS. In Haiti, I was fine. I had one crisis at 14. I had the next one at 26. After I was done in college, and I was done. And ever since then, though, it's been very difficult, very challenging, and so I had to, my life like took a different path, and I want to add this advocacy awareness, this live show, everything I know about sickle cell, because I want two things. I want to accomplish two main things out of this. I want to have a sickle cell clinic in Haiti that
Wow.
serves my Haitian people, because when I go to Haiti, I lived in Haiti a year. I had one crisis and I had to jump on a plane and come back here.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
I want to be able to have a clinic that has the therapeutic, the I guess, vegan therapeutic side, where we would
Right.
have, hopefully we'll be able to have, cannabis, everything that's natural, to teach people how to use food as medicine. And
Right.
then the medical part, because I mean, let's face it, sometimes you are in so much pain, you have to run to the doctor and get an injection.
Right.
But I
Right.
don't want it. I want to be able to get to that point with this, and also I want to promote sickle cell so that we can end up finding a cure so that the babies who are being born with sickle cell don't have to go through the same things that we have gone through.
Right.
So
Right.
those are my main two things for this platform. I'm not a big
Okay.
social media person, but because of sickle cell, I have to become. And so I
Okay.
accept that. That sun though on your face is like heaven. Um
Yeah, okay.
so I
Let
wanted
me put
no,
this on.
it's fine. It's fine.
It's good? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I wanted to so I want you to, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself
Awesome.
and then we could take it from there.
All right. Awesome. Let me put it down a little bit because it is a little bright. Hopefully it's not too bright for
It
everybody.
is bright.
Okay.
I wish I had that
Last
weather too.
my last live was so dark.
Oh.
I said let me get in the bright room. Well, my name is Francois Laporte Jr. I am a full-time sickle cell advocate. I am also a peer-to-peer mentor for sickle cell. And I'm actually I don't call it coaching. Um, I basically consider myself a change agent and I consider myself a facilitator. In other words, I really believe that everybody has the power within themselves to change. People have the power within themselves to figure out their issues if they practice self-awareness and if they can be honest with each other. So what I do is I facilitate the process for you. Um, I work right now exclusively, well, I've been working exclusively in the past with just people with sickle cell and chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized is pain is pain. And so with sickle cell, we're dealing with a lot of physical pain.
Yes.
But a pain point is a pain point, and you have a
Yes.
lot of people struggling with pain. It might be something outside of physical pain. It could be pain in your business. It could be your pain is trying to grow your business. Your pain could be marketing. Your pain could be whatever it is. So what I do is I facilitate the process and help you grow from your pain point to your point of power. And so your situation doesn't have to change,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can get a hold of your mindset, if you can get a hold of your perspective, then you will have the power to switch and flip and pivot and do whatever you need to do to be successful. So that's my strength. That's what I do. That's what I focus on. And I'm doing my best to advocate for sickle cell and chronic pain because there is 50 million people in this country alone that suffers from chronic pain.
Oh.
Chronic pain in the sense of chronic pain to the point where they can't work, where they'll be on disability.
Yes.
Their quality of life is affected. So when I'm talking about that 50 million, I'm just talking about that particular. We're not even talking about the other millions who just deal with chronic pains on different levels. I know Dr. Hodge, his chronic pain is something he broke his neck, I believe in
Yes.
2012. So you have people that weren't born with a chronic illness, but acquired a chronic pain
Pain.
condition. And
Mm-hmm.
so once we learn to master life, I think you can do anything. And sickle cell is not an excuse. We got sickle cell, people with sickle cell in the NBA. We got people with sickle cell in the NFL. We got sickle cell in professional tennis. We have it in professional soccer. So it can be done. And a lot of us were taught to be scared. I mean, the weather changes. We're nervous. You know, too cold, you got a problem. Too hot, it's a problem. Don't go into the sea. Don't go into the ocean. The water's too cold. I mean, I remember
Yes.
just being
All of it. Yes.
so
Very
sheltered as a
sheltered.
youngin,
Yes.
and so overprotected that
Yes.
it actually it was a bigger handicap for me trying to live a sort of normal life because my parents were just doing the best that they. With that being said, I want to make sure that we can be empowered, we can feel empowered, and we can continue to strive and thrive. And so that's what I do. That's what I do.
I like it. Um, Two things you said. You said from pain to power,
Yeah, pain point to point of power.
point of power. That that resonated with me a lot, and also the being shielded part. I grew up in Haiti. I don't know if you grew up in Haiti, but I
Mm.
find that the people who grew up here with sickle cell, as opposed to the people who grew up in Haiti, well, for me anyway, growing up in Haiti with sickle cell, it's two different things. When
Right.
I tell somebody that I got sick for the first time at 14, Everyone was like, oh my God, are you sure you had sickle cell? Yes, I have sickle cell. I was born in New York. I knew I had sickle cell from birth, but I grew up in Haiti. And so my grandparents raised me and they knew that I had sickle cell. That meant I couldn't really go ride my bike. I couldn't really go play
Right.
with my brother. I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. I was shielded. But I think while I'm grateful that I grew up in Haiti and I had that side of it, at the same time, I think it it became something else. I think when all of this started happening, right when I'm done with college and I'm supposed to start my life, and I had to have both of my hips replaced, I
Right.
think for the next 10 years, I started using sickle cell as a crutch.
Right.
And now I'm trying to get out of that.
Right.
So it's not
Right.
easy, but I understand exactly I see how what you're doing as coaching plays into all of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's a good thing that you're doing. It's a good thing that you're doing because chronic pain may be like mentally, emotionally, whatever you say, like if it affects your business, whatever, it can become um like it just hurts you so much.
Yeah. It's funny because especially when you think about it, when we were growing up, I know having my family coming from the islands, coming from Haiti, they didn't even know what sickle cell was.
Right.
There's the Haitian Creole word is doule. Now doule is just a way of saying pain.
Pain.
So my whole life, I just knew I suffered from doule. I suffered from pain.
Yeah.
No explanation. I didn't know what sickle cell was. My parents, they spoke English,
But
not too much, but in the household it was Creole. That's what
right.
we spoke. Um, as we grew up, we became the translators. We became the one that would give them information. We
Right.
would break it down for them. They would call us over to explain
Right.
this. You understand? So
Yeah.
going to a doctor's office and the doctor telling you all the things that's going on with your child, with them not really putting two and two together or being able to even understand.
Being able to
I
understand.
grew up with a lack of information. So I didn't even know what I was dealing with to begin with. And so as I became older, as I started to study, as I started to look at sickle cell and see it for what it was, the world changed for me. It was no
Mm-hmm.
longer a crutch. It was no longer a handicap because most of my life, it was a handicap. It was
Yeah.
what you can't do because of sickle cell.
Right.
Be careful. You do too much, you're going to go into a crisis. You're going to end up in the
Right.
hospital. Do too much, you're going to need a blood transfusion. Do too much. But I was talking to you earlier. I was just in the hospital being transfused.
Right.
I'm I'm right here having this interview. I'm good.
Right.
But it, 10, 15 years ago,
It
I
had
wouldn't
to
even thought
exactly.
that was possible.
Right. And I
I would
don't
have thought
think
I need to
it
be in bed, you know?
right. That's true. And I don't think it's only like maybe you had a lack of information. I think there was a lack of information on sickle cell in general.
That is
Right?
true. That
Because,
is true.
like I told you, I knew that I had sickle cell. I knew I was born with sickle cell. I knew I had sickle cell. But even, with that information, it was literally, yeah, you can't go ride your bike. You can't do this. You can't do that because you don't
Right.
want to fall into a crisis. You
Right.
can't, it was always that. And I think it's because they didn't really know, like, if you fall into a crisis, then what are we going to be able to do
Right.
for you?
Right.
So let's protect you. That way you don't have to deal with that at all.
Right.
But it's a lack of information, and I think still now there's still a lot of information missing. But I think if everybody keeps doing what they're doing on their side together by themselves, we'll get to the point where we will have all this information out there, and like you say, it's no longer going to be a handicap. Yes, I have sickle
Right.
cell, and then so what? I can
Yeah.
still do everything. I can still do life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you grew up in Georgia or you grew up in Haiti?
I born and raised Brooklyn, New York. I got the Haitian flag on, but for me, I claim both. I claim both. I'm Haitian American, second
Have you ever been to
generation.
Haiti?
Hands up. You got me beat. You got me beat. You got me beat. You got me beat. Uh, so for me, my all that I know of Haiti comes from my parents. All that I know of Haiti comes from family. Um, I was never
Right.
fortunate enough to really, yeah, not at an age. Now if I go, it's different. I'll
Yes,
know. I'll have
definitely.
some memories, you know. But you know, when you're younger, that's the threat. You know, you don't behave, that's where they're sending you to. So that was always the threat. I'm gonna send
That
you to
was
Haiti
the
to be with your
threat, huh?
grandmother. You keep playing, acting a fool. That was the
I know.
threat.
I
That was the
actually met
threat.
people in school in Haiti who were actually on punishment. And then, they live in New York, but they're on punishment. So now they go to
Right.
school in Haiti.
See, so it wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Then, see, I'm glad
It
I
was.
listened to my
It
parents.
was. You
I'm
just,
glad I listened.
you were right there and you didn't get to
Yeah.
experience that, but it has happened.
Yeah, definitely.
So for your childhood growing up, did you get sick a lot?
Yeah, it was weird for me. I was misdiagnosed as a child. My so to break it down, the four of us. There's six of us altogether, but four of us. The two oldest are sickle cell trait.
Okay.
The two youngest, which is me and my younger sister, have the disease.
Okay.
Now, my youngest sister had was diagnosed as SC. I was diagnosed as SS. As a
Okay.
baby, I was the one that was sick
The
all the
most.
time, always in the hospital, um, always needing care, missing school, having to make up work. It was hard for me
Right.
being younger. Where my sister, she would get sick a lot, but for her, it was as she got older.
Okay.
My youngest sister, unfortunately, she passed in
Oh, sorry to hear that.
2016 from complications from sickle cell.
Oh man,
So
I'm sorry
it
to hear that.
yeah, and so that was for me. That was for me growing up. I always thought that I had it bad. I had it bad. But as I got older, it started to die down. But then what happened is we started developing complications due to sickle cell.
Mm.
So she has we both had chronic pulmonary embolism disorder.
Okay.
So we have a illness where blood clots, normally they call them DVTs, deep vein thrombosis. They form in your legs,
Mm-hmm.
and they travel to your heart, or they travel to your
To your
lungs.
lungs.
Quite possibly, if they go to your heart, that's a heart
Yes.
attack, stroke. It could be the end. Um, for us, we don't get the warnings. They form in our lungs immediately. So both of us were on blood thinners, and we continued to get embolisms even while being on blood thinners.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, for my youngest sister, by the time they caught it, she had multiple embolisms bilaterally in both lungs. By the time they were able to treat her, it was already too late. Um, and so I look at it. I look at it as a cross that I bear, and for me to share this story, it's important because I
Definitely.
want I want her story to be heard. My life is not my life. Honestly, it's not. I'm living for her.
For
I'm
her.
living. I'm living for mom and dad who's not here. I'm living for everyone that has sickle cell. I don't care if it's even the trait.
Right.
I'm repping sickle cell, and I want the word out. I want to empower us. I want to encourage us, and that's why I do what I do, and that's the mission. So as a kid, I didn't think this would be possible because
Right.
I didn't know I would even see this.
Right.
I've managed to live past every expiration date that the doctors gave me. From the age of 12, I wasn't going to make it to my 13th
Amen.
birthday. From the age of
Amen.
18, I was told I wasn't going to make it to see my 19th. Time I reached 24, the life expectancy for sickle cell disease was 30. Then they moved it to 35. Then it's at 44. Now they're saying 54. And for me, expiration dates are meant to be changed, and I'm going to
That's
keep
true.
changing it. I don't
That
I don't
that
plan to
that
go
that's
anywhere.
That's the
Yeah.
testimony right there.
Yeah. So I don't
I
I
like
don't I
it.
don't get caught
Well
up in
said.
that. I don't get caught up in that. So I'm living my best life right now. And I do as an example. A lot of people laugh. This is me all day. This is how I dress, this is how I carry myself, because I refuse to look like what I've been through, and I refuse to look like what I'm going through.
I agree.
I don't care what's going on. Whether I'm limping or not, I'm going to turn my limp into a bop. That's just how I choose to live my life. If my arm is hurting, then I'm going to carry that arm in a way you're going to think I'm trying to style on you. Because it's important for people to see that you don't have to suffer unnecessarily.
Right.
And so I want
Right.
to be an example. I want to be an example. So it may seem shallow. It may seem egotistical. But now for me, how I look and how I rep is important, because I love when people say, you don't look like you have sickle cell. Nothing makes me more happy to hear that, because I
Right.
always question, what does somebody with sickle cell look like?
Looked like.
Because if that was your perception of what sickle cell is, I'm glad I was able to demystify that for you.
Right.
And so I pride myself on how I look. I pride myself on how I speak. I pride myself on how I carry myself, because I'm representing a whole warrior population. And so that's what it's about. That's what it's about for me. That's what it's about.
I like it. I love it.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like if you dress better, you feel better.
That is true.
So, I mean, there are times that you will catch me looking a mess, but but I still say that I'm running the show, not sickle cell.
That's
So
right.
right now I need to look like this, but then tomorrow I'm not going to look
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this.
My
That's
wife will tell you. My wife will tell you, I've never met a mirror I didn't like. My
that's
wife will tell you that all. I never met a mirror I didn't like. But yeah.
that's dope. I like it. So you mentioned your wife. So do you have children?
I have a son who is also sickle cell trait.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that I've had the conversation with him from the time even before puberty. It was like, listen, when you're gonna meet somebody special, and I want you to understand, one of the first conversations you need to have is to let them know that you have sickle cell trait, and you want to know what their genotype is. It's just that simple. Not to say that if they are sickle cell, you know,
Then they can't.
AS or SS or SC, that
Right.
you can't have kids,
Right.
but you want to know, because the more informed you are, the better you can navigate. And
Yes.
so that was important. That was important.
Yes.
So
I
yeah,
like that. And I think that's powerful too, because for me, I heard the opposite of that, right? So for me, even now, I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I think I kind of like distance myself from the idea of having children because I don't want to repeat the cycle. And I
right,
think in the beginning stage of dating, if you must, I've heard plenty of people with sickle cell say that they don't want to tell the person that they have sickle cell, and I have experience with that too. But my current relationship, I made sure that I had the talk right in the first week because I felt like I was older then and I was able to understand to have that conversation better. But I think it's a good thing that you're doing because then you don't you don't have to go through it doesn't have to go through life having that idea and then wait until it's whatever. But if you have that information and then you share that information, you talk to the people who you were dating, then you go in it with the upper hand, I think.
right,
So I like
right.
the idea of doing that. I think that's a good thing. I think people who have kids need to say, people who have sickle cell who have kids need to teach their kids, you need to, you need to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's an important conversation to have. My wife said that she said I didn't necessarily, now we started to talk, but I didn't get a chance to actually tell her yet, because before I could, I ended up being sick and needing to go to the hospital.
Right.
And so she actually found out, no filter, no fluff. She got to see the real deal. She got to see a grown man in pain, near tears,
Mm.
and so she got to see it firsthand. And so at that moment, if she had decided that this is too heavy, I don't want to deal with it, I would have been able to respect that, because
Right.
I don't have anything. I've heard people say I wouldn't date somebody with sickle cell,
Yes,
and I'm okay with
I
it.
got that.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, and that's fine. That's your choice,
Right.
But I like to put the cards out on the table before, because guess what? You don't have sickle cell, but I might not want to date you as well. So, it's about compatibility as
It
well,
is
as
about,
much
yeah.
as anything else. So, my obstacle is
Right.
my obstacle,
Right.
I'm sure whoever you're going to be dating or talking to is going to have obstacles that they're going to have to overcome as well.
Right.
It's
Definitely.
a part of life. It's a part of life.
For
Yeah.
me, I hate to admit this, but the first time I started having pain, and he was in town visiting, and it was Black Friday. So I was like, let me drop you off at the mall, and then
Right.
I go to the ER.
Wow.
And that's what I
Wow.
did. But then after that, I was like, what are you doing?
Right.
And so,
Right.
because he knew by then, he already knew that I had sickle
Right.
cell, and this is what it was, and that's what I go through. But I think, I guess it depends on the person.
Yeah.
But it's a
Yeah.
good thing that you had that talk with your son, because it's very important for everybody to be aware. Everybody involved needs to know this is what we're doing, this is what's going on, this is what we're dealing with, so we can make the best choices.
Definitely. Definitely.
Okay, so you're the first guy I've had on my live.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Why oh? No, okay. So I have an older brother. He just joined the live. Um
Yeah, I see some people
so
here I'm waving at right now.
so he doesn't have sickle cell. He doesn't have the trait.
Okay.
Both of my parents have the trait. He has nothing, and I have full blown.
Okay.
Hi. So yes, he has. Both of my parents have the trait, and he has nothing, and I have full blown. And so I've had that conversation with my mom before. Even when I'm in the hospital, I'm like, I'm glad I'm the one who has sickle cell, because I don't think my brother would be able to handle it.
Right.
Not to say he's not a strong guy, but
Right.
I don't think he would be able to handle it. It's very difficult. It's not easy. But I found out through my research that there is something called priapism that
Yes.
men
Yes.
who have sickle cell experience. So if you don't
Yes.
mind, I love you. Don't roll your eyes, my brother. So yeah, if you don't mind talking to us
Hmm.
about what that is.
Well, priapism, I'll give you the layman's definition to make it simple. It's with sickle cell, our cells, instead of being circle cells, they're shaped pretty much like sickles.
Right,
And
half moon.
as they navigate through your bloodstream, they can get stuck. They cluster together and get stuck. Um, Priapism or priapism, tomatoes, whichever
Tomatoes,
way you choose
tomatoes.
to.
I don't know how to
Um,
pronounce it. I just
it's it that's when those cells get stuck in your genital area. And
right.
so for men, what'll happen is we'll have very we can have very painful erections. You
Mm-hmm.
have an erection that won't go away.
Mm.
Um, that's cool if you Hugh Hefner, but even Hugh Hefner had a limit.
I know you
It's
did
a
not
it's a
say.
very painful experience. I've only experienced it. I'm thankful for it. I've only experienced it once in my life, and it was when I was younger.
Mm.
Um, I didn't even know what it was, didn't
Okay.
understand it.
Right.
Um, but I was fortunate not to have that as a recurring theme in
Same.
my sickle cell journey. But
I'm
it's
happy for you too.
extremely painful. I've spoken to others that experience it, and that's kind of like a big thing.
Right.
They'll end up in the ER. They'll end up needing treatment. Um,
Right.
and I can't imagine having to deal with that on a regular basis, which a lot of male sickle cell uh, carriers deal with. And
Right.
it's a big thing.
And like I said, I've only been teaching myself about sickle cell in my adult life, right? And
Right.
I was at the sickle cell clinic one day getting treatment, and it was one of the older clinics that I used to go to. And we all had the recliners, you know, and then you start getting your treatment, either blood
Yeah.
transfusion or whatever it is that you need.
Right.
And then they roll in a hospital bed with a guy in it. And then apparently he was hospitalized,
Hmm.
but then he started having that.
Yeah.
And so they rolled him into the sickle cell clinic because we were on the second floor of the hospital. And so when you go to treatment, after you get your first dose of medication, for me, even if I'm not sleeping, I don't want to be bothered. He was screaming for 6 hours straight. I
Yeah.
had no idea what was going on with him. And of
Yeah.
course, the medical people, the personnel, the staff, they can't talk to us about what's going on with this
Right.
person. And I'm going crazy. And I'm like, if he doesn't shut up, but I didn't know what it was. And that's the only reason I was able to react that way, because for me, I need my rest too. But this person,
Right.
I feel like he was already on the hospital floor. Why bring him down there? But that's besides the point. He was screaming. He was screaming for 6 hours
Yeah.
straight. And
Yeah.
so I've never had a conversation with a guy who had sickle cell who has experienced that. And I'm still looking for a guy who has sickle cell who can explain it. I mean, I know we already understand what's going on, but I, you know, it's kind of,
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
yeah,
It is horrible. That
it's,
just sounds painful.
but if you can connect the dots just by imagining. Like, that's one thing I noticed with every sickle cell client that I speak to, and that I be it in passing, be it even if it's a client, everyone has, with sickle cell, you'll notice everyone has a crisis, a crisis that's specific to them.
Yeah.
Like, for me, crisis for me, I have, most of mine starts out with ACS, which is acute chest syndrome. That's chest pains, shortness of breath. That's one of mine. The other one is severe back pain. I mean,
Mm.
the pain hits you in the back. Sometimes it hits you so hard, my legs lock up.
Mm.
There's nothing so for me, I have specific. You have others, it'll start in the arm. And that whole arm will hurt. They can't do anything with that arm. It's excruciating pain. It's as if taking a monkey wrench or something and squeezing it on your bone or your joint and twisting for
Yeah.
however long the crisis lasts.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own. Priapism is no different. It's just imagining the most excruciating pain that you can imagine,
And then
and
it's there.
having it in your penis. I mean, just if
Whew.
you when you're dealing with a man, I mean, we can get a little raw now. If you're
Yeah.
dealing with a man, just brushing by that area, I'm flinching. I'm ready to,
Oof.
that's just,
Yeah.
we see something on TV,
Right.
somebody
And it's not
skateboarding, doing a
happening to
trick
you,
and
but then
lands,
you feel
and
like,
you feel it. So can you imagine having the worst pain imaginable, be it in your joint, be it in your bones, be it in your chest, but imagine it in that's probably one of the smallest parts on your body. I mean, outside your fingers and I mean, that's in comparison to your head, your arms, your legs. I mean, so you think about that
this is the
pain
thing now.
concentrated right there.
Yeah.
It's it's I wouldn't wish that on Lucifer himself.
Oof.
I
Listen,
wouldn't. I don't even have it in me to wish that on anybody.
it's
So
it's
yeah,
painful.
yeah,
My last
it's
crisis,
serious.
I was on my back like this. I can't hold my arms. I can't hold my legs. I'm just in the bed screaming. Um, But yeah, me neither. I can't think
So
about that, like to wish
so
that
so
on
let,
somebody.
let me ask you a question. Let me turn the tables. When you feel before you get to the point that you have to go to the hospital, or if it's not a crisis that you, because if when you're living with sickle cell, you're constantly in pain.
Right.
We have this thing where we have levels, and so
Level
we know
six.
we know our baseline. We know what pain level we're at, that we
You.
can function and do the things that we need to do. Like, so my pain kind of dictates what I do. And
Yeah.
so my question to you is, how do you cope when you feel a crisis? What are some of your go-to things that you do, possibly to sort of ease your mind, maybe ease your body, to prevent you from, or prevent it from escalating to go to that hospital level? Like, what are some of the things that you possibly do, if anything?
Now, I'm able to go and take a hot shower and then roll a blunt and then go smoke it.
Right.
And then, that I feel like once it's calm here, then I'm able to, like, I feel like I'm always talking myself off the edge
Right.
with my pain. Like, okay, you fine. Maybe it might be. Like, I'm always, whenever I'm going
Right.
through, like, I'm always like trying to tell myself it's fine. No, this is not. Because my last crisis, I remember it was like 9 p.m. I was in a lot of pain. I did not have my prescription in for my medical cannabis yet. So I took my pain meds and I went and took a hot shower. 11:30, I'm saying, so it was 9. So 11:30, I'm like, huh, maybe it's not helping. So that's 2 hours, 2.5 hours later. And then at 12, I woke my mom up and I was like, Mommy, I think you need to take me to the hospital. And it just went from there, it just went ER number one, ER
Yeah.
number two, third hospital, 6 days later. That's how it played out.
Right.
But
Right.
prior to this crisis, my last crisis, I was in Haiti and I went to the hospital and then they couldn't help me really. And then 2 days later, I flew to Florida and I went to the hospital. Um, and then I came home. Probably was in the hospital for 2 days. And I came home and I tried to, But when I'm a paralegal, and so I have a very stressful job. So when I work, I plan my work week so that I either have like a day in between to, rest from the first 2 days or the last 2 days, or if I want to be a G about it, I go Monday
Right.
through Thursday, and then Friday I take the break. So that's what that, like, I mean, it depends on the crisis when I'm like, because sometimes it's like just the hot shower or the heating pad, water always, and then the medical cannabis.
Yeah.
For me now, it's been medical cannabis because I want to be off of opioids and narcotics like altogether.
Yeah. The 3 years ago is when I started experimenting with medical cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
and the THC oil, the CBD oils, have been a tremendous help, especially for me, because not I don't just have sickle cell disease. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have
Shit.
cervical spondylosis, and a few
Warrior.
other things. So I can't, if I were to take opioids and narcotics for everything that I'm dealing with, I would be a zombie. I
Yes.
would be in bed.
Right.
I'd be an addict. I'd be an addict. I really would be an addict. There'd be no way I'd be able to manage, function, or even think on all of those narcotics.
Yeah.
So cannabis has been a big help. But just growing up Haitian, in a Haitian household, to think that me taking oils and me lighting up a joint or me doing that. I mean, growing up Haitian and then growing up Christian.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
let's just look at those stigmas right there. You know,
Right.
you try telling, I'm in pain. You gonna tell me try Jesus, and I'm in pain. I hear you. Prayer has its place. Prayer has its
Yes.
place. So you pray for me while I light this joint. Is where I'm at. You see what I'm saying? You pray for me. Pray that my hands I can work out through the
Light it
arthritis
up.
to get to light it up. Pray for me that I'm able to do that. Pray for me that I'm able to take a few drops of this oil that I
Right.
need
Right.
right now. And
Yeah.
so, and that's the whole thing. It's the stigma. It's the stigma. To me, I find out now that the stigma, the perception, or even the ignorance of people is a lot harder for me to deal with
Then the
than actually
reality.
having
Yeah.
sickle cell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I don't need anything extra for me. You see what I'm saying?
That's
I'm
how
good
I
with me.
feel.
I don't have to explain anything. You know, this is the cross I bear. And
Yeah.
so if you're not going to help me carry the cross, at least do your part and get out of my way so I don't trip over you while I'm
Yeah.
carrying my cross. That's
Yeah.
how I look at it. So yeah,
Simba, in
cannabis is a
Jesus'
big
name, we light.
in yes, amen. So, for me, that's what it's about, because at the end of the day, it's about relief. It's about finding a way until there's a cure for this thing.
Right.
I'm on the other hand, I had a client, um, and I'd like to say last week Friday we met, and I give my clients homework to do.
Mm-hmm.
And but this particular day, the roles were reversed because I became the client and he became the facilitator. He became the expert and the specialist. And it was amazing because, he gave me permission in the middle of our session to listen, Bree, how are you doing? How are
Ooh.
you how are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, we don't even have to worry. I know I signed up for this, and I know you got a job to do, but no, seriously, how are you doing?
That's
And
important.
that that right there for me reminded me once again that what we're doing is so important.
Very.
It's so important because I'm not just here advocating on behalf of others, because
Right.
at the end of the day, I have to be my greatest advocate.
Advocate.
Everybody is their advocate.
Yes.
Everybody is advocating for something. And I'm not just talking about sickle cell, I'm talking about in life. Everybody is advocating for something, be it advocating by using your voice or advocating by remaining silent. Nonetheless, you're standing for something. So for me, I
That's true.
choose to use my voice and I choose to advocate on behalf of others. But ever so often, I forget that I need me to advocate for me as
Right.
well.
So if you're not
You know,
well, you can't advocate. So
and
you
and
have to
that's
be
and
well
that's the
to be
truth.
able to advocate.
And he asked me. He said, "Hey," he said, "Listen, can we have a little? I just want to ask you a question. If you can choose right now to no longer have sickle cell and be completely cured from this, would you do it?" And it probably was the most difficult question I've ever been asked. It was the hardest question because everything that I'm going through, I think about my wife, I think about my son, I think about my sister, my brother, my aunties. I think about everybody else's world that has to stop when I'm sick because I don't just have sickle cell, they're going through it with me.
Yeah.
And so when he asked that question, it was hard because I had to think sickle cell is so much a part of my identity and who I am. It's so much a part of my calling and what I do. If I were to be cured, who would I be? It
Hmm.
was a very difficult question. And I told him, I gave him an answer. I said, well, I don't know if I would take it. I don't think I would. But I had to tell him, I need you to give me permission to not allow that to be my final answer and allow me to think about it,
You
because it's
can
a deep
still work on
question.
that answer. That's dope.
And the reality of it is, we may never see a cure for sickle cell. Yes,
Yeah.
there is bone marrow transplant. There's things that's actually reversing it right now. But a lot of us that have suffered from sickle cell, that have conditions related to sickle cell, many of us with sickle cell already have kidney problems, already have liver problems, just on the narcotics that we've been taking most of our lives, just on the fact of having sickle cell and the damage that it's doing to our organs. So I was never able to qualify for it. I was never eligible.
For
So
the
for me,
for the bone marrow transplant.
right. So for me, I never thought about being cured. I looked at it as something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
I made that up in my mind, and I'm okay with it. So, but if I can see a day when no one else has to suffer, I'm all for it.
Amen.
I'm all for it. But I'm okay with the cross, because I've learned long ago, this cross is mine to bear. But by no means will I ever allow myself to climb on that cross and crucify myself. So
Ooh.
sickle cell is my cross. I'm going to carry it,
But it's
but
not gonna kill you. You're not gonna
I'm not
be.
going to crucify myself on that cross. I refuse. I refuse. And so my job is to make sure that these youngins coming behind me, these teens coming behind me, even
Important.
these young adults and even these grown adults understand that you have the strength, you have the fortitude to carry your cross, and you can carry it proudly. You can
Yeah.
look good popping your collar carrying your cross. It's okay. It's okay.
It's
And
that
that's my
simple
mission.
too.
That's
I
it's
was telling
just
my
that
sister
simple.
just yesterday. She said, "I don't know if I had it, if I would be able to be like you are right now." And I'm like, "Yeah, but if you need the strength, you're going to find it. You
You
don't have a
find it.
choice. It's
You
going to
find it.
just, you're going to find it."
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something about. I don't know if you saw the video about where they were talking about black people going to the hospital with pain, and they just assume that we can tolerate pain more than anybody else because we black.
Yeah.
I
But
want to.
that's
I wanted to get your opinion on that.
let me I growing up in New York, I don't know. I'm gonna paint a picture for you guys. In New York, most of the time when I was growing up with sickle cell in the hospital in New York, I didn't know what a private room was until I moved to Georgia. Whenever
Okay,
I had a crisis, I would be in a hospital with
somebody else.
6 to 8 different people, and it'd be
Whoa.
curtains separating us. I could be in there for a week, 10 days, whatever. Um, as
Huh.
my parents found another hospital, and then it would be a room where maybe it'd be just 4 of us in a room, eh, till finally we started moving on up, and we found a hospital where it would just be 2 of us in a room. But it
Moving
wasn't
on
like
up.
a sickle cell ward. So like how you were when you were in that ER, imagine laying next to somebody who has sickle cell disease in pain round the clock. And you're in here probably because you're just coming from surgery and you're trying to rest. And here I am moaning, groaning, crying, screaming, and yelling nonstop for 24 hours for the next 7 days.
Ooh,
And you're my roommate.
roommate.
So I'm getting pain meds. They're giving me the pain meds. I'm getting it. It's not helping. It's
Mm-hmm.
not helping. So growing up with sickle cell and dealing with the pain, I knew from a young age, when you come in to the hospital, they assume, especially when you have sickle cell, they're always in pain.
Hmm.
They're just here for medication. They're just here to get a fix, or they're just here.
Yeah,
They're
that's the
addicted to the
main
medication.
idea. That is the main
The
thing.
make
They
so for me going into the hospital, I'm prepared for the fight. I'm ready to advocate for myself. I've had it out with doctors. I've had it out with nurses. I've had it out with staff. It's not a, you go in
which one
there,
of us hasn't?
you sit in the ER, you're in excruciating pain, and they'll tell you now. The thing here in Georgia is, they no longer allow you to have dilaudid in
No?
the ER. In the ER, you
Okay,
can
but
get it
when you
when you
get
go
admitted,
up,
then you can go.
right? But the thing with sickle cell is when you're in pain, you need to get something to level off that pain right then and there, because if
Yeah,
you wait, the
it's
pain now
gonna be
becomes
worse.
unmanageable. And
Yeah.
so for us, we already are looked upon as we have a high tolerance of pain. So the fact that it's a disease that really affects the majority is us.
Mm-hmm.
It's people of African descent.
Yeah.
And I say that, and I understand that, because Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, whatever they want to call themselves, Brazilian, y'all all from Africa. We all come from the same place. And so when I say people of African descent,
You
that's
mean
what
all
it
of that?
is. And so all of that. And so they look at us as we are high pain tolerant.
Mm-hmm.
Just on sickle cell. I'm not even talking about another level,
Right.
or other diseases, or whether you went in there for you're pregnant, because I've heard that happening to Black women, not getting the proper medications because they have the assumption that Blacks tolerate pain, or we have a higher threshold of pain. But I know for sickle cell for a fact, I fight for every pill. I fight for every injection that I get. My wife now she is my bodyguard, because
You need
there,
it.
if she doesn't jump in, because I go from 0 to 100, I'm in pain. My pain starts to talk for me,
Yeah.
and so
And
I'm
that's the
I'm
thing.
trying to
Like
understand.
they say in medical school that you can't let somebody, if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. My mom is a nurse and she told me you're not supposed to let somebody in the ER with pain for more than 30 minutes before you actually, you know, talk to them, triage them, medicate them. Now, I'm sitting in the ER 4 hours. I'm in all this pain. Do you think that the nicest thing is gonna come out of my mouth when you come talk to me? I'm just asking. I try very hard not to curse. It's not my thing. I don't like it. But if I have to, I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
So I'm in the ER 4 hours and I'm in all this pain. Do you think that, because I was in the ER and then the guy, I wasn't screaming. And my thing is I love to laugh. So when I go with my mom to the ER, she would be like, stop laughing. They're not gonna take you
Right.
seriously. I'm like, yo, but
Yeah.
I can't help it. I need to laugh. And so the ER doctor comes in and says, um, are you in a lot of pain? And so I ignored that because,
Yeah. That's
bro, listen, I have pain pills. I have like prescription every month. So whatever I'm taking at home, if it was helping me, which I get legally, if it was helping
right.
me, I would not come here. My
I wouldn't
band
be
is way
here.
bigger
I
than
wouldn't be
this.
here.
There's no point.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so he says to me, um, I'm from Brooklyn, so I know when people are in pain. I've seen it all. And then I looked at him and I was like, how long have you been a doctor? He said, 13 years. I said, well, I've had sickle cell longer than you've been a doctor. So try your conversation a different way,
Right.
talking to me.
Good
My
answer.
mom
Good
looks at me
answer.
and I'm like, I can't be nice at this point anymore. What do you want from me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
I had a doctor tell me. I had a doctor actually that said, "How long have you had sickle cell?" Right there, the rage that came after that comment and the words that came out of my mouth, I'll spare everybody here on IG.
you
But
had no control over
I
them.
went, yeah, because that was, and I think I told him, I said, what kind of stupid question is that?
Is this?
And my wife understood, because that was the last time we went to that hospital. There's nothing, if God forbid something happens to me and an ambulance has to come get me, and that's where they're taking me, my wife is gonna take the chance, throw me in the back of the car,
Car, so you
and
could go
and and
somewhere else.
drive me cross town, because It's not going to happen. I don't have time to explain to a medical doctor what sickle cell is. I don't have